If you're too far, you may not hear me. You should better move around this way because there's strange acoustics here. When I'm facing that way, you may not hear too far around. Okay, here we are, ladies and gentlemen. We are now stood in what is known as the outer ward of the tower, the area between these two defensive walls. Behind you is Mint Street. That is where coins of England were designed and produced up until 1810. Now, all of those buildings you can see that used to house the Royal Mint, they are known as casemates. I know that because it says so over there. Casemates actually means brick-lined buildings within the walls. Today, the vast majority of those buildings are homes to me, my colleagues, and our families. So come on then, hands up, who didn't realise we all live here? Wow, you know the saying? Every Englishman's home is his. Welcome to my castle. I've got a small house in Wales and a small castle in London. Not too shabby. And according to my grandchildren, I am the coolest granddad on the planet. So when my grandchildren come to stay, they come and stay in granddad's castle. But your granddad hasn't got a castle. Sorry, let's still wait for the ice cream. Now in front of you is the bell tower. Would anybody like to hazard a guess why it's called that?
Bell.
No, because it's got a bell in it. Hence the name, the bell tower. The bell tower is in fact the oldest and the strongest. How many towers?
20.
13 in the outer wall. Now given its name because of that small belfry at the top, which contains the oldest surviving curfew bell in the City of London. In the event of an alarm, that bell would be sounded, causing all drawbridges to be raised, gates to be locked, portcullises to be lowered, and all of these battlements manned for defence. That bell is still sounded at the end of every single day to warn all visitors and strangers that you are no longer welcome here. If you are still in these grounds today and you hear that bell, that is your cue to run! As all the buildings have closed, the tower is being secured after another busy day, and we are going to get naked and party. Trust me, it is not a pretty sight. 37 wrinkly, old, ex-sergeant majors, naked. Have you got an image in your mind? Clear your mind, children. Now, due to the strength of this building, the bell tower, many important prisoners have been held in here, including that man for all seasons who was
Thomas More.
Well done, Sir Thomas More, imprisoned here in this lower chamber because he refused to sign the Oath of Supremacy, the document recognising King Henry VIII as head of the newly formed Church in England. At the same time, and for exactly the same reason, his good friend John Fisher, the Bishop of Rochester, was housed in the upper chamber. Now, although both these men suffered terribly, they refused to abandon their religious beliefs. They were eventually taken out there onto Tower Hill in 1535 and publicly beheaded. 400 years later, in 1935, both of those men were canonised as saints of the Roman Catholic faith for dying for their beliefs. Hence today, St. Thomas More and St. John Fisher. Now, another prisoner held in here you may never have heard of, but I can almost guarantee you this. By the end of this tour, you may never forget this man's story. And children, you're going to have nightmares for weeks to come. I am available for babysitting. Okay, hands up, who's heard of James Scott? 2 children. James Scott was the Duke of Monmouth, eldest of the 16 illegitimate children of King Charles II. So come on then, hands up, who knew Charles II had 16 children? His wife, by the way, had none. Now you know why he was known as the Merry Monarch. After the death of his father, this young man, James Scott, was persuaded to stake his claim to the throne of England. He landed down in the west country of England and started a sweep inland, gathering Protestant support in what became known as the Monmouth Rebellion. That rebellion was crushed at the Battle of Sedgemoor on the 6th of July, 1685. But James Scott escaped. He was, however, captured a week later, and having been condemned to death in his absence, was taken out there onto Tower Hill for his public execution. It proved to be one of the bloodiest executions ever to take place in English history. The executioner on that particular day was a man known as Jack Ketch. Now, you may not be aware of this, but executioners were not paid by the state. The only money they received for carrying out their gruesome task was from the condemned man himself. It was custom or tradition that as a nobleman walked onto that scaffold to die, he would reach into his purse, take out a handful of gold coins, and hand them to his executioner. You were actually paying to ensure the task was carried out efficiently and quickly. Some people here in London used to refer to this money as severance pay. The jokes really don't get much better. Now, on this particular day, as James Scott walked onto that scaffold to die, he met Jack Ketch stood there with his hand out, ready for that customary bribe. James Scott decided he would not pay someone to remove his royal head. He pushed the hand to one side, knelt down, placed his neck on that block of oak, and told Jack Ketch to get on with his duty. Jack Ketch therefore raised the axe high into the air, and with the full strength of a 6'4" man with no money, he brought it crashing down. Now, whether by design or by accident, we will never know. But what we do know is this: the blade sank squarely into his shoulder blades. At which point, amazingly, James Scott turned his head, looked up at Jack Ketch and said to him, "You do that again, I cannot promise to keep my head still." What's funny about that? Jack Ketch put his foot on James's back to steady the body, grabbed hold of the axe and ripped it from his shoulder blades, and took a second blow, catching him across the back of the head. At which point, not surprisingly, James Scott moved, because the third blow of the axe sliced down the side of his head, removing one ear and embedded into his shoulder. The fourth blow again hit the shoulder blades. Finally, the fifth stroke of the axe sank into his neck, about 2 inches. Jack Ketch therefore grabbed hold of the axe, ripped it from his neck, and threw it to one side. He pulled out a butcher's carving knife. Close your eyes, put your fingers in your ears, all of you, now, do it. Close your eyes, fingers in your ears, quick. Okay, open your eyes, take your fingers out your ears. Now, for some strange reason, this time, instead of that head going down to London Bridge, as was the custom, it was brought back here into the Tower, along with his mutilated corpse. And the two were then sewn together, before he was buried 24 hours later in our Chapel Royal. And to this very day, we don't know why. It's one of the many, many mysteries of the Tower of London. Now, some of you out here are starting to look a little bit squeamish. What exactly did you expect? This is the Tower of London. Still has that magical ring, doesn't it? Send him to the Tower. But if you would like, I can change tack. I know hundreds of stories. I can tell you stories of love, romance, intrigue. Hands up if you'd like some love stories. 3 people, 4 people. Hands up if you'd like more blood and gore.
Yeah.
Democracy in action. Okay, let's go around and trade escape, you bloodthirsty bunch.